I have revived my hairline not once, but twice in my life. A lot of people have been asking me how I did it because 85% of men are balding by age 50, but I was part of the 16% that are balding by age 16. Tragic.
You're bald!
Look at this picture of when I was 16. I am physically trying to cover my hairline. Always on my mind back then, and I would hide it with like hats and bandanas. Styling my hair, trying to get like every hair in the perfect spot. I was like a kid who was like creating a masterful work of art.
I'm done.
I pretended that if I did all that, no one would notice. Everybody knew. Like, I talk to people now, they're like, yeah, of course, we all knew. But it's sad because I felt bad about myself and nobody cared, but I hated how it looked. Now, before I tell you what I did to reverse it, you may have noticed that I kind of look like I'm on drugs or something in that photo. Because I was. I have no idea how drug use may have contributed to my hair loss, but I did two things that reversed my baldness the first time. Then I'll get to the second time when I was in my 30s. The first thing I did as a teenager was taking Finasteride in the form of Propecia. It's a super common prescription for hair loss. I started it at 19 years old. The second thing I did was get sober at 20. For almost 16 years, every day I have stayed sober and been on Propecia. The fact that I started super early was huge. Finasteride won't save someone who's already bald. It can regrow some hair, but it will save what you have not lost. This is a picture of me at 21 years old. That is me at 30 years old with a full head of hair. But it turns out I am the perfect candidate for Finasteride. Some people have horrible side effects, and I don't want to scare anybody, but listen to this. A 33-year-old guy sued the company that makes Propecia because he physically could not have sex after taking the drug. And after he stopped taking it, it got worse. The guy who sued said, "I made a deal with the devil. I kept my hair. I lost my manhood." Dude, if I knew that when I was 19, I probably wouldn't have even tried it. I would rather have my son than my hair, but I got lucky. So for me, things were great throughout my 20s. It turned out I got a job on TV as a sports guy, so, you know, having my hair was a plus. But in my 30s, things started to change again. You know, spending a little more time in the bathroom on my hair origami project. Saw some things on camera, but no big deal. Then one day I was paying off a bet to my subscribers by dyeing my hair like Dennis Rodman. There was no denying my hairline was under serious attack again. Oh, and the commenters let me know it. Dang, that hairline looks like the McDonald's logo. Not even Steph can pull up from that deep. That was my favorite. Casey, I'm afraid it's time to give it up. And that last guy was right, and there was no denying it anymore. So either shave it or get a hair transplant. And you already know what I did. Yes, I'm gonna tell you every single detail of what that was like because I wish someone would have told me. Obviously, I am happy with the result of my hair transplant, but I did make a huge mistake I would 100% take back. So after a lot of research, I found out there are two main decisions. One is price, the other is method. The cost in America is about $15,000, but a lot of people go to Turkey. You may have seen this. A lot of YouTubers, they'll actually get paid to go to Turkey to show people what it's like. Apparently there are good doctors there, and including the plane ticket, it only costs about $5,000. The second thing is what kind of surgery? I had no idea. There's a big debate about this. There's FUT and FUE. FUT is like the old school one that leaves a big scar on the back of your head where they get the follicles from. FUE is more new school, but it leaves no scar. Now, the old school people will swear by it even though there's a scar, but I saw enough success stories with the new method to go that way. So I found a good local doctor in America and I went in for a consultation. And this is where I made a mistake that I would take back. And we'll get to that, but I want to tell you how the surgery goes. So it took about 20 hours over 2 days where they painstakingly take follicles from the back of my head and place them up front. Well, first they put them in like a petri dish and then they place them all up front. I'm gonna show you some photos. They're not too bad, but you know, they're not too great. You're awake the whole time, but you're on like so many drugs that it doesn't even matter. The actual doctor did only like 10% of this procedure. Mostly I was chilling with his nurses who did all the work, and they were super cool and we just like talked about life. Now, look at this photo of the back of my head. You can see holes where they removed the follicles. Here's the front of my head where they planted them. It was not fun, no. My face here says it all. After the surgery was done, I looked like this. Here's another look. You can see that big bruise on the side of my head. And of course, I shaved my hair to make everything look the same. The recovery from this, for me, was awful. You know how when you have a healing wound, it'll like itch, right? Well, the back of my head felt like it was on fire for 2 weeks. It was hard to sleep while those holes healed, and I couldn't scratch it. And I threw away the pain meds early because I was like, no big deal, I can take this. And then I'm like going through the trash. I had no pain meds. I had to go through it just totally raw. What happens next is everything they put in falls out. Then the follicles underneath the skin hibernate for like 3 months before they start to grow. Then over the course of 1 year, 90% of your new hair grows in. It's about 100% after like 14 months. But my big mistake in all this happened before the surgery. There were photos on the wall of the doctor's office of success stories, but most of them looked like guys who were still balding. So I asked the doctor, like, why didn't those guys just fill it in? And he said, oh, well, they didn't want people to know that they had the surgery. So he asked me, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, how low can we go here? And he was like, we could do half an inch, we could do like a full inch. And I'm like, yeah, let's do the whole thing. And he said, okay, but I just have to warn you, you may have to come back. You might have to come back in like a year to get more coverage. And all I heard was like, you might have to, I was like, who cares? Big mistake. What he should have said is, don't do it. It's gonna be obvious on the edges that you got a hair transplant. So if you look, you can't tell on camera, but if I like really zoomed in, I'll just put some pictures up right now. You can see that it doesn't look natural on the edges. And now I get that the best way to do a hair transplant is just to fill in your bald spots. You won't be able to tell, it'll just look thick. You don't create a new hairline. I'm an idiot. Now, I want to be clear, I am not blaming that doctor, but I do wish that either he would have explained it to me in these words, or I would have just picked up on his hint. Now, I'm probably not gonna go back because I don't care that much about it, but obviously I want you guys to know. I also recently had a whole body transformation that actually only required natural diet and exercise, no surgery. But I also wish that people told me exactly how that would have gone, so I made a whole video about it for you guys if you wanna cut body fat. Check it out.